Hi, welcome. Welcome in. My name is Cynthia. Thank you for being here. Thank you for arriving at my channel and in this space. I hope you enjoy this work. I have kind of a lot of things I wanted to touch on today, so hopefully it doesn't feel too much like a college lecture, because that's definitely not what I'm going for. But the energy building towards the eclipse, I'm making all of these intense kind of spiritual and otherworldly connections about things that have been happening in my, not just in my own life, but what I think are happening for people catching these readings. And I'm sort of having a lot of intuitive and spiritual guidance to touch on them. In part, I'll just emphasize that it's so that you don't feel alone, because I know for me, as I started to delve into the world of the esoteric, I had my teachers that believed in this world, but my community, especially because I have my own history in my past, I've alluded to before about having what many people would have diagnosed as a psychotic experience. I felt very apprehensive about sharing about this side of myself for a long time, especially because I'm a clinical social worker in practice, and I don't want to feel burdened with having guided someone down a path of esotericism when maybe they were paranoid and needed some psychiatric help, right? So I don't want to, but this is a spiritual practice for me, and it's partly why I don't put a bunch of disclaimers on my channel saying this is all just for entertainment, because I don't believe that. This is a spiritual world that we're living in, and just like Christian people can have a YouTube channel and preach things about Christianity, I can come on here and talk about the esoteric world and the spirit world and feel confident in doing so, that I don't have to be afraid that I'm going to get sued or whatever, right? It's just, sometimes I think that's a paranoia based, maybe not, maybe I'm courting some kind of lawsuit, right? I don't know, who knows, but whatever, I'll deal with things as they come. But before I get into some of the stuff, it's a continuation of the last reading, which a lot of stuff about Ku magic, or also known as Gu magic, which is ancient Chinese magical practice that has both a light and dark aspect. Like most of the magical and esoteric practices, you can use them for good or for darkness, right? And many witches will say that they're a gray witch. They kind of dabble in both as needed. At least in the Western, that's the terminology for Western witching, right? Like white witch, black or dark witch, I should say, and then a gray witch, right? And so I'm really a white witch, although I will definitely return to sender. I don't have a problem with that. Although, again, in those dreams that I was having just in the last reading about the fire and death magic that I think was being sent to me or to this home, I'm not going to return to sender, that kind of thing, because I don't know where it came from 100%, and I don't want innocent people to get hurt potentially by me just being like, fuck you, return to sender, right? Like, to me, that's irresponsible at some point. But I don't hesitate to return to sender when it's like, I'm not going to take on your weird beauty spells or your gluttony spells that you're sending me that are, you know, way out of character. This is just one example that I'll get into later, but way out of character for me to eat in an insatiable way. It's not part of my history. I don't have an eating disorder. I've never done anything like that. And as I've kind of tuned into the fact over the last several years that I had this hater that was doing and practicing black magic against me, that was what some of the spell work that they were doing was, you know, before I'm realizing, I'm like, what has come over me? Like, why am I wanting to just eat and eat and eat? Like, I can't get enough food, and especially fattening, like stuff that's not even good for me that I normally don't even crave. And I started cluing in finally, like, oh, this is part of that spell work, right? It's been a little bit of a trial by fire education for me, but because I'm already very tapped in and I'm a skilled practitioner, I wasn't born yesterday with this shit. So even though I was a little naive at realizing too late, oh my God, this person's been hating on me and sending me this kind of work for a long time, and I just didn't want to believe it. I'm no longer in that place. I do believe it. I do what I have to do to protect myself. I'm very savvy. I'm very skilled. And it's to their detriment. They're the ones that are going to go down. I believe that very strongly because I'm protected from my own steps that I've taken, and the fact that I feel that I'm kind of destined to be protected for whatever reason I don't really know. But I've had a lot of things happen in my own life leading up until now that lead me to believe that that's true. So I'm not trying to tell my life story here, but part of the reason I'm going to go into this in such depth is because I want anyone who's catching this, if they're wondering if they're going through something like that, I want you to feel less alone, because it can feel really scary. If you feel that someone is sending you that kind of toxicity or evil eye or even black magic or death magic, it's scary. And if you don't have people around you that you can talk to about it without fearing that they're going to think you're crazy, I want this channel to be a safe place for you to be able to at least consider, is that what's going on? Here's the symptoms. Here's the history of this kind of magic, right? So it's not just in Asia that this black magic, or it's not just in Asia that black magic exists. It exists in all places where people practice within the spiritual world. This is just what I've been experiencing currently. And so I'm going to talk about it. But before I get into that, I just also wanted to honor, today is the anniversary of the inundation of Celilo Falls. And this is a photograph of people who are indigenous to the Columbia River Gorge, also known as the Nichiwana. I'm not sure who took this picture. I knew at one time, but I can't remember. It's a very famous photograph of Celilo. It might have been Edward Curtis. He's a white man who did a lot of photo documentation of indigenous people in Turtle Island, for good or bad, right? He's a complex artist, as someone who did that work, right? But this is a photo of the falls before it was inundated on March 10th. I can't remember the year now, if it was 1957 or not, but it's a day of mourning for Columbia River bands of Indians and treaty tribes along the Columbia River watershed, Snake River areas, right? This was a major, major gathering place for trade long before colonization took place. It's a sacred falls. It's a very tragic day, and the falls can be restored. I just want to say that. I've mentioned this in other readings. It's a controversial subject for indigenous people on the river because it was such a traumatic event in history that people have likened it to, if we restored the falls, it's like raising the dead, and we shouldn't do that, or that's too painful, right? And so I believe in restoring the falls because I believe that it's decolonization of the land here. And surprisingly, it's somewhat of a unifying idea. It cuts across a lot of lines because sportsmen care about salmon. Indigenous people on this river care about salmon. I care about salmon as somebody who just loves nature. I'm not a sportsman necessarily, right? But conservative rural leaders often support this notion because they understand that it would be good for tourism, and that's controversial, right? But this falls was a tourist attraction before it was inundated. People who are white, and I'm going to link a video in the community tab about Celilo so that you can learn about it. It wasn't only indigenous people that were stricken with sorrow when this falls was inundated. People who are white who lived in the region as well, you'll see in that video, also found it traumatizing. It's a sacred place, and it's a travesty that it was inundated. And were it to happen today, it would not happen. It would not be allowed to happen. And the truth is that the Dalles Dam is no longer needed for energy, for Bonneville Power. They can generate and replace the power lost from the Dalles Dam with wind power and solar power. The only reason that the dam is still in place is for barge passage. And I think there's something only like 3 or 4 barges per day, if that go through there. And so it doesn't need to be inundated. It still exists. The Army Corps of Engineers has done I don't know what kind of, if it's geothermal or what kind of imaging to see if it's still intact, and it is. It could be restored. And in fact, they approached the treaty tribes during, I think, the Lewis and Clark Biennial and asked how they would feel if they restored the falls temporarily by breaching the dam temporarily just for the biennial. And people were like, fuck that, no, because that's wrong, that's all wrong, right? But anyways, I just want to honor Celilo here. I grew up in this region. I've known about Celilo since I was a little girl. I'm sad that I never got to see it one of my dearest friends, Lana, these are her earrings, and I've mentioned her before. She's Celilo, YM, and I just want to honor it today. So I'm honoring Celilo. I'm sorry there's candlelight reflecting. You might not be able to see the image so well, but that's first things first, right? Okay, now, before I get into the black magic concept here, I just want to talk about this author because this is a Filipina, she may be biracial, I can't remember, graphic artist and cartoonist, Linda Berry. I love Linda Berry's work. She is an alum from my college, the Evergreen State College. She was a contemporary of Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, who also went to my alma mater, the Evergreen State College. They were there at the same time, and they are friends. She is an amazing artist, and she's Filipina, either all the way, like Filipina American, or she's biracial, white and Filipina. But this book, I've given it as a gift many times. She and I are more or less contemporaries. I think she's like 4 or 5 years older than me. But this book that she illustrated, 100 Demons, I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I read it again and again and again. Every time I get myself a copy, I end up giving it as a gift. And I keep trying to tell myself, don't give this one away. You can't afford to keep replacing it. But it's so good. It's so funny. It's so poignant. Everything in it is so relatable for me, especially. Like, there's a story, one of the stories alone is about a girlfriend that she had growing up in school, maybe middle school, whose mother had died. And this friend was just sort of mysterious and intimidating to her because she would just sit and stare and not answer questions sometimes. And as someone whose mom died, I resonate. Like, a lot of times my friends didn't really know how to deal with me because I was just kind of intense because of that loss. So that's just one story. There's another hilarious story in there about when she takes acid in Seattle in high school with this guy. It's just amazing. This book is truly a gift. I cannot recommend it enough. Please, if you do anything or follow up on anything from my channel, buy this book, 100 Demons by Linda Berry. You will not be disappointed. It is funny. It is sorrowful. It is just everything all in one book. It's really, I get chills even thinking about it. In fact, after this reading, I'm probably going to read it again because you can read it like in one sitting. It's amazing. In fact, I'll show. Like, it's a cartoonist book. It's a graphic novel, right? But it's so good. And it's based on an ancient practice of scroll and art, brush and ink practice called 100 Demons, like painting 100 demons. And this was her attempt at that old practice. And this was the result, 100 Demons. And it's her own version of it, contemporary, a cartoon. I absolutely cherish it. And part of the connecting link is not just because I'm going to be talking about black magic from the Philippines, but because of two things that, again, this is like crazy synchronicities that have come up in my own life. So one of the stories, which is hilarious, is about her grandmother telling a story about, I pronounce it the Aswang. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced because I don't speak Tagalog, and I don't even know if that's how you say that word, honestly. But it's a great story in here about the Aswang, and it's a mythical creature, right, in magic, in the belief system of the Philippines, right? And it's a really great story. And there's another story in it. It's the very first one. I want to say this because yeah, it's because in my last reading that led me down this trail of looking into Buto, and Buto kind of guiding me towards the black magic of the Philippines. The first story in here is about lice and a time in school when she gets lice as a little kid, and then her Filipino cousins teaching her about lice. And it's called the Kuto, though, not the Buto, but the Kuto, right? So it's related because Buto is around insect magic and beetles, and Kuto is what lice is, the word for lice. And it's a great story, too, just about how, what happens when you get lice, especially in the United States. It's just this hugely shaming experience for grade school kids and for their parents. And anyways, I could go on and on and on and make an entire video just about this book because I literally cherish it. I'm so grateful to Linda Berry for writing this book. And she spoke at my graduation at Evergreen. That's another thing. And she just brought the house down with her humor and her warmth and her heart. She's just an incredible artist and an incredible woman. And I fangirl and admire her from afar, always. I follow her on Instagram. I would love to take one of her classes at some point. She teaches somewhere in the Midwest, I think, at a university there. Teaches drawing and cartoon, making cartoons or comics, right? So it's just 100 Demons. Please do yourself a favor and buy it. It's so worth it. I love this book. And before I get into sort of a darker aspect of Filipino culture and black magic, I wanted to lift her up in this book because it is like a rite of passage to read it, especially if you're a woman, but maybe if you're biracial, maybe if you're from our generation. I mean, it just cuts across so many lines. It's so amazing. I cannot uplift it enough. I want to hug it, right? Like when you love a book so much that you just want to hug it, like that's what I want to do with this book, how much it's meant to me in my life. And because of that, I've given it as a gift so many times. I gave it to all my supervisees when they graduated from our MSW program. I was a field instructor for my MSW program, and all of them, they weren't my supervisees, they were my students, but I gave them all a copy of this when they graduated to uplift them. And I just, I love it. Okay. Anyways, this is, and then I'm getting into kind of my own work here for a sec. This is my master copy of my zine that I just finished. I'm getting ready to do the first edition. It's about radical organizing in the region where I live, which isn't known for that, right? It's not like we have a history of that kind of organizing, but rural organizing is often overlooked. We exist. Rural radicals exist, right? And this is a zine I made for my little region on both sides of the Columbia River. Who were the radical people that took big risks in organizing for social justice, including us, right? Including the things that we did during the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, ICE and what ICE was doing in our community and what they're probably going to be doing again and have kind of already started doing. We went hard for Palestine recently with over a month-long campaign. This is my third zine, so I just kind of wanted to show that off a little bit in keeping with the work of Linda Berry, right? Like this is my zine. I'm getting ready to print the first edition. And this is another one of the brush and ink drawings that I did that I've been showing off on here. I hope I can get a lot of it in. This is a baby bird. Can you see that? I don't even know if you can see it. It's hard to get the whole thing in, but this is a baby bird that I drew. I think what I'm remembering now is that I had done 2 birds and 2 dog skeletons. And even that is coming like full circle for me. When I made these, it's almost like I didn't even know where it was coming from. Like I was just channeling this work through the muse somehow, and now they have all this resonance to my readings. So I like paying attention to stuff like that. And I like my work. I'm proud of my work there. That's brush and ink work, like Linda Berry's work is in 100 Demons. So those synchronicities are really meaningful to me. And so in the last reading, I talked about, kind of near the end when I was reading tiles, stuff about black magic started coming through. And so I wanted to follow that trailhead outside of the channel and reading that I'm posting. And I was like, that's interesting that this is coming through again. I wonder why. Like, why is coup magic coming through? It's not new. It's something that I tapped into, was being practiced against me several years ago during the pandemic. And it took me a while to trust that and believe that that's what was going on. But the symptoms, I've covered this in another reading, but I'm going to say it again. Some of it was unexplained weight loss. That was one of the first things I noticed and was connecting One was I broke my wrist, and when I broke my wrist, this was even before the pandemic, when I broke my wrist, when I fell and broke my wrist, the person who was practicing against me, I saw them in my mind's eye, which was super random for me at the time. I didn't even necessarily believe in black magic at the time, right? But I remember being like, is she behind this? And then I was like, that's crazy. Like, I really brushed the stuff off for a long time until my life and the way it was going forced me to look at it and pay attention. And I thank God that I had teachers in esotericism that didn't think I was crazy and that helped me start my sorting out of what I need to do about it, right? So I broke my wrist. That was one thing. I had some unexplained weight loss for a while where I was very alarmed. Like, again, like I said, I don't have an eating disorder. So it was very bizarre and out of character that I would not be eating, right? And so I was like, Jesus Christ, look at yourself. Like, it's like I just woke up one day in the mirror and I was like, you've lost way too much weight. What is going on? And I began a concerted campaign to be like, put pounds on, right? Like, gain weight. That's not healthy, right? So that was another symptom. And then on 2 other occasions, my home was swarmed with flies, bottle flies, the kind that are attracted to rotting meat, okay, and dead carcasses. And that, the first time it was one thing, it was not as severe as the second time. The second time it was incredibly severe. It was like my entire basement was full of flies. It was very scary to me because I was like, that was when I was like, you can no longer ignore what was going on. And it wasn't just flies, it was ants. Ants were swarming my home as well. Not just, they swarmed my bathroom and like started building this entire residence in my toilet before I caught on. Like, it was really wild and scary because I was like, I don't even know what to do. And so for me at that time, once I started realizing you cannot ignore this, it's just escalating. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Insects, I then started learning that's a very common and indication that it's a pretty advanced magic that's being practiced against you when you're being swarmed with insects. And so I started realizing I need to do something about this. And while I was figuring it out, because of my own skill as a practitioner, I channeled the Medicine Buddha. And that was a very big part of clearing away that magic and cleansing it out of my home. Salt baths was another one, but the Medicine Buddha at the time that this was happening and really at its peak kind of spoke to me and said, make me an icon. And I did. I made them. I don't know if you would use the term icon, but that's what he said it in a way that I would know what he meant. Make me an icon, because I know what icons are. And so I did. I made my own little watercolor image of the Medicine Buddha for my altar. And then I did a Medicine Buddha meditation like every day, sometimes twice a day. And I did some other things too. I got some black Hellebore flower essence. I did things like that to kind of clear it out. And it was successful. But then as I started scrying through the Obsidian Mirror and doing my Obsidian Mirror podcast, there have been other signs. I didn't recognize them as signs that people were trying to practice against me. But I now know that that's what they were. And it's because of this reading that I did the other day, just this last reading I did, that I was like, okay, I need to delve deeper into this and see what's going on, because there's things that are kind of lining up in this way that I think I'm supposed to talk about on the channel, but I need to do research first. And I kept channeling Middle Eastern things recently in the last couple days, although the jinn have been coming through in my scrying sessions for quite some time now. I felt honored, but also very humbled and respectful of the jinn. I do not want to tangle with angry jinn or unleash jinn into my life. I had jinn kings come and like tempt me and say, can we serve you? But I could feel that it was a trick. And I was like, no, respectfully, no, I don't hate you. I don't, I respect you, but no, thank you. I don't want to work with you. I'm not seeking power. Right? But there were other things that were coming through over the last several months. The Shesh Naga, which is a serpent deity in Asia, that, I was very honored for all of these things to come through and for me to get the opportunity to glimpse through the Obsidian Mirror. Well, one thing that I've started putting together through this last reading that I did is that there is an intersection that happened in my own life of Chinese black magic and black magic from the Philippine Islands. And I'm not really sure why, But there's a large population of Southeast Asian migrant workers in Qatar, and Qatar kept coming through for me. And I'm like, Qatar? Like, I have no relations or connection with Qatar at all. But then when I started looking into it, just when I was doing my own work with my tiles and cards, Qatar came through. And so I started looking into it, like, why Qatar? Like, what is the story with Qatar? And then I'm reading through Wikipedia, like, oh, there's a huge Southeast Asian population in Qatar, migrant working. There's a term for it in Arabic. I can't remember the term right now. But that's where the intersection is. So someone in my life has intersected in this way with somebody who's a black magic practitioner. And that's where a lot of this imagery was coming from, being directed against me. But because I do my own protection work and I feel that I have a protected path, it wasn't harming me. In fact, it was teaching me and making me wiser, wiser like the serpent, right? And so it blew my mind, though, to realize this. And so part of what I felt guided to do was read a passage about this type of black magic so that you can know personally, because I think that there might be people in this collective that have had similar symptoms and are wondering what they are. And this might bring you answers, okay? That's why I'm being guided to share it, is in case it will help you. It really helped me to make all these connections in the last night and be like, God, I'll be goddamn. Like, it's all coming together. Like, it's all making sense, right? So, yeah, okay, covered everything that I wanted to do here. So now I'm just going to read a little bit. And please, if anybody in this collective ends up disagreeing with some of what I'm about to read, because it's from Wikipedia, and I understand that Wikipedia can be not a great source, but this struck me as very well written. And it's specifically about witchcraft in the Philippines. So I'm just going to read it because it's very well done, and I'm probably going to mispronounce some things. Let's see here. In the Philippines, witches are said to use black magic and related practices depending on the ethnic group they are associated with. Witchcraft in the Philippines is completely different from modern Western notions of a witch, as each ethnic group has their own definition and practices attributed to witches. And the aswang makes an appearance in here that Linda Berry talks about in her book via storytelling of her grandmother. In the Philippines, witches in the traditional non-Westernized sense are malevolent forces who can be sought after to inflict curses on others, although in few instances they can also bring justice when injustices occur by way of curses. The curses and other machinations of witches can be lifted by Filipino shamans, associated with the indigenous Philippine folk regions. When shamans were demonized by colonizers and followers of the colonial faiths, most shamans were replaced by traditional healers influenced by the Christian or Islamic faiths. Each ethnic group in the Philippines has their own term for witches. Some of these are as follows. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to read these because I'm not going to pronounce them. I'm not going to try because I'm going to do a disservice to how you pronounce these terms. So sorry, disregard. Black magic. Filipino witches are believed to have powers that cause harm to other people covertly. Healer sorcerers who practice this kind of sorcery usually justify it as a form of criminal punishment, as a widespread belief is that black magic does not work on people who are innocent. Well, and if that's the belief, surprise, these magical workings against me that I'll get into here in a little bit, and possibly against you that you've been experiencing, they didn't work. Okay, they didn't work. They might have worked temporarily, but I'm not a bad person, right? So that's important to know. And I don't even know that I believe that, because that's also used by colonizing forces that during the witch trials in Europe and in the United States, that was used as a justification. Like, this torture wouldn't work if these people weren't really witches and stuff like that, right? So I don't even know that I actually believe that kind of belief, but I have a little, oh my gosh, you could not plan it. there's a little stink bug making its way towards me right now. And one of the symptoms, even though stink bugs are invasive here and we have seasons that are really bad for stink bugs, like when I first moved into this place, it was like fucking invaded with stink bugs, and it took me all season to like get them out. And that to me felt like, I don't think it's just that this place isn't well sealed. I think that this is still some of that lingering magic, right, on my home. Their targets are usually wrongdoers, like thieves, adulterous spouses, or land grabbers. There are also true sorcerers who are said to have hereditary sorceress powers. Unlike healers, they do not consider the justice of their actions. The latter type of sorcerers are often conflated with the evil supernatural beings capable of appearing human, like the Aswang and Manananggal. One of the most common kinds of black magic is malevolent use of sympathetic magic. Despite the differences in terminology, the methods are almost identical across the Philippine Islands and indeed across Southeast Asia. This type of sorcery uses beetles, effigies, poppets, a boiling pot, or some other type of representation of the target victim. They are usually linked by including bodily exuviae like hair or nail clippings. These are activated by chants, spells, or other symbols, sometimes syncretized with Christian or Muslim rituals. The sorcerer then either harms the effigy to cause corresponding harm to the victim, or physically sends objects into the victim's body, which can range from insects, stones, to pins. In some instances, the ingredients of the ritual themselves determine the effects. For example, adding seawater to a boiling pot linked to a victim is said to cause the victim's belly to swell and ache in time with the tides. This type of sorcery was documented as early as the 17th century by Francisco Combes. Other malevolent powers are more direct. These include the ability to kill another person instantly with magic spells, the ability to cast curses or the evil eye, the ability to abduct a person's soul, or the ability to send evil spirits or familiar animals to possess or charm the victim. These are things that I've all experienced, okay? I've experienced the boiling pot saltwater one, where I became immensely bloated. That practice was done around a moon cycle that also corresponded to my birthday, that I spoke openly about on my channel and on my Instagram. Well, that magic was done against me because I had intense bloating that it drove me to the hospital. Okay, so these are real things. These are real things. There was no cause of the bloating other than gluttony, eating, right, which is also a part of this. The swarm of insects and using things like hair and nails. I'm not so sure about that, but I highly suspect it. It would require, though, that someone close to me was helping in some way. And I haven't ruled that out because I've had people come into my home when I wasn't here. And I've spoken about that on this channel and stolen a picture off my altar. And so I'm not ruling out the fact that somebody maybe came in here and took some of my hair at one point and used it as like kind of in English, or in the Western practice, it's like a witch's ladder. But it describes in here taking someone's hair and tying it around beetles, right? That then invade the person's living space and body and such with parasitic magic, right? Methods. Kulam uses beetles, effigies, poppets. Oh, and that gets me to the migraine headache that I had the other day, because I think I know what caused my migraine. It was almonds, but I ate way more almonds than I normally do. So again, I think that a little bit of that kind of sorceress type stuff crept through because I had a very untypical migraine for me, which is that it was right here. The pain started right here and then started radiating. Well, that's my third eye. I think it was an attack on my third eye, okay? And this kind of reading is not going to be for everyone. The reason I'm doing the reading here is to help you know if this is going to bring, if you've been suspecting, like, what the fuck is going on with my health? What's going on with these insects swarming my home, right? What's going on with these symptoms I'm having that don't have any explanation, okay? It might be something like this, especially if you have people around you who have a belief in this world, okay? Which is many, many people, right? it's easy in the United States to think, oh, bullshit, that kind of stuff. Well, no, there's people all around us that believe in this. And the person that it originates with in my life was a hater that I managed to get in my life way before I realized they were hating on me. And when I first started having the symptoms that they were practicing black magic against me, I dismissed it because of the U.S. sort of blindness to this kind of thing and the sort of Western worship of logic and this stuff isn't possible. Well, surprise, it is. And my teachers in the Western traditions helped me accept that it was real and not in my head, right? So that's what I'm trying to bring forward here, is if you're having this fear, to help you understand that maybe you're not crazy, okay? And if you're not having any of this happen to you, then this reading is not for you, okay? So Kulam uses beetles, effigies, puppets, and a boiling pot or some other type of representation of the target victim. These are activated by chants, spells, or symbols. The sorcerer then either harms the effigy to cause corresponding harm to the victim or physically sends objects into the victim's body, which can range from insect stones or pins. Earth, soil, fire, herbs, spices, candles, which I've had I think that's where some of that fire magic was coming at me. Oils and kitchenwares are utensils often used for rituals, charms, spells, and potions. In some instances, the ingredients of the ritual themselves determine the effects. For example, adding seawater to a boiling pot linked to the victim is said to cause the victim's belly to swell and ache, right? Barang, the term barang refers to a type of beetle in Visayan, usually employs a swarm of destructive insects, specifically carnivorous beetles. Other methods are usik, sharp magic or induced illness using smaller insects, hilo and leisan, poison magic, paktol, doll magic using skulls or representations of the victim, laga, boiling magic. Laga, sometimes written as laga or laaga, means to brew or boil in a pot, and sampal, sea creature magic. Other malevolent powers are more direct. These include the ability to kill another person instantly. Yeah, okay, we talked about that. And the ability to send evil spirits or familiar animals to possess or harm the victim. So not only did it start making sense why Qatar was showing up, because scrying is also a part of Asian shamanism, mirror magic and scrying. And so because I'm a critical thinker and highly discerning, I knew when I was going to start scrying that I needed to be very careful, because if you're not careful and not respectful of it, if you're just playing with it, you can really cause even yourself harm. And it wasn't long into scrying into my obsidian mirror that these practitioners tried to access me through this mirror and send me jinn magic through the mirrors. And jinn is something that is a belief system in the world of Qatar and parts of the Middle East. And where these communities intersect is in Qatar, right? And so somehow in my life, the person that was practicing against me, maybe with Chinese black magic, also has people in their life that practice Philippine black magic from the Philippine Islands. Okay, and that's where it was being directed at me. That's why Buto was coming through. That's why Shashnaga was coming through. That's why the jinn were coming through, right? And it's why my home was being swarmed with insects. So this is really stuff to know, okay? If you think you've had similar symptoms like this, or kind of like when I ate all those almonds, that even was out of character. I like almonds, but it was like middle of the night, I was like, almonds, and I kept being like, well, you're just hungry, and it's okay, it's not something toxic for you, it's almonds. Well, sure enough, I had one of the worst splitting migraines I've ever had. And you could say, well, it's just because you ate too many almonds. But the anomaly symptoms were, I don't eat like that. So that was the first indicator. And then the second indicator was I've never had a migraine like that started right here in my third eye. So, okay, these are things to pay attention to. And like I said, if you don't believe in this kind of thing, or if this is like, what the fuck is she talking about, then this isn't for you. It's for someone that maybe needs reassurance that they're not crazy. And that there are a lot of things that you can do to reverse this kind of magic and transmute it. And I would start with the medicine Buddha, right? Because that's where my biggest medicine came from around some of this curse work. And I've been able to find my own practices since then that protect me beyond the medicine Buddha. But the medicine Buddha is the biggest, in my opinion. I mean, you can't, the medicine Buddha is a very powerful healer. Okay, so I'll just leave it there. So I wanted to read about that. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. And now I will do a reading here and then call it good. Thank you for listening. What's something that we should know in this collective? What's something that we should know? Either about this kind of dark magic or about intersecting cultures. What do we need to know in this collective? Or maybe something totally different. I also was kind of wanting to do a love reading randomly, but I don't think I'm going to try to do that here in this same reading. I think I might do that as a separate reading in the next couple days. And if love's meant to come out now, it will. What's the main message here that we need to know? Thank you for listening, by the way. I hope that was interesting. It was super interesting to me. And it explained a lot. And I was like, oh, that's why the jinn were coming through. Like, it is all linked. It wasn't all these kind of separate... Oh, my God. I have one more thing to talk about, too, because it made me laugh. And I don't think this is related to these practitioners in any way who were doing Chinese and Southeast Asian magic. But I have another hater in my life that's a boomer, someone that I go way, way, way back with. I'm not going to go any farther in identifying them. I know who they are, and I think they know I know who they are by now. But they're a hater. Whether they send me evil eye or actual spell work, I don't know, and I don't really care. I'm over it by this point. I had to go through my own, like, oh my God, I feel betrayed and whatever, but that's all over with. But as I was doing sort of return to sender for anything around Evil Eye last night, they came through with this kind of hostile little jab at me. And it was mocking my looks that I look like Cindy Brady. Because my name is Cindy, for one, Cynthia. And because I've been wearing my hair in braids and I have blonde hair. And if you follow the Brady Bunch or loved the Brady Bunch, I grew up watching it after school. I was a latchkey kid. It's still one of my favorite shows to this day. Cindy Brady in her early years wears those little blonde braids. And this was this boomer hater that I have and I'm close to being a boomer, right? I'm Gen X, so I'm not trying to be ageist, but I'm just trying to paint the picture for you because that was her insult. That was her jab at me, and it made me laugh out loud. I'm like, really? That's you? That's your jab? Like, that's how you're insulting me, is to tell me I look like Cindy Brady? Like, fucking bring it. It's absurd. Like, it's still making me laugh. And so I got your message. Yeah, that's really put me down that I look like Cindy Brady. Ridiculous with my Cindy Brady braids. Gotcha. Like, come on. Like, to me, it's funny. I'm happy to look like Cindy Brady. Like, who fucking cares if you think I look like Cindy Brady? I don't. Like, Cindy Brady was cute, right? Like, whatever. I like my braids. I think they're cute. Like, it just made me laugh. It literally, when they sent me that hostile image, like, you look like Cindy Brady, it just made me literally laugh out loud. I laughed out loud to myself when they sent me that little message. Okay, gotcha. Roger that. You really got me. 8 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Well, this is kind of interesting because it does seem like maybe this is going to be a love reading. It might be a love triangle or yeah, it's a love reading. This is coming out a love reading. Someone's feeling a little sorrowful in love. That's in the cornerstone. It might be you, or it might be the other person who loves you, okay? There's someone sorrowful, but they're trying to carry forward with, even though I'm sad, I'm going to try to move forward here and hope for the best. They're wanting to create a happy life and a happy family with you. They're seeing you as a Queen of Cups. Either that, or they are the Queen of Cups loving you, and they're trying to, move forward, right? But the reason I'm saying this is a love reading is because we have the Lovers, the King of Cups, the Queen of Cups, right? So, and you're wanting to build with one another, and there's a choice that's approaching with the Lovers card and with the Two of Pentacles here, and it's a choice in love. What I'm picking up with this layout is that this is a very synchronistic reading too, because they're worried because you are very solid on your own. And that's why this Five of Cups here, they're worried that you're going to choose not to be with them because you're in this Nine of Cups energy. You don't need them. And maybe that's not typical for them, that they're used to someone who's codependent. They're used to someone who uses manipulation or uses neediness and clinginess in order to keep them. And you are not that. You're not in this energy. You're very stable on your own. Although I'll say with the Nine of Pentacles that often when you're in Nine of Pentacles energy, you're okay, but you would like to have a partner. And that's evident here with this Ten of Pentacles. What you may not be realizing as two people is that you both want this. You both would like to have this life together. But they're feeling very vulnerable about the fact that you are so independent, and they may not be accustomed to that. They may not be sure how to deal with you because you are so secure on your own, creating your own life, generating your own abundance. What's coming out here, though, is that you both would like to choose one another. With this Ten of Pentacles, you both would love to build a happy home together, an abundant future together. This is a very joyful, happy home life, happy material security in the home where you have everything you ever dreamed. It's something that you both want to choose. And you're kind of like in this destined couple energy if you both choose it, because you're showing up as a King and Queen of Cups, which is very connected to the heart. You have a Lover's card here. But this person, again, they're intimidated or feel vulnerable because you're so okay on your own. You might be projecting so much security on your own that they're like, well, where would I even fit in your life, right? And that's not your fault, okay? That's not your responsibility to worry about, is what I'm picking up. But they feel a little uneasy about it because it's maybe not like anything they've ever had, right? This is them at the heart of the reading, and flip this in either direction. This could be, because I'm kind of getting that either they're pining for you or this is for them, and this is true. I don't know. Like, this reading is for both of you, I guess, is what I'll say. That's the shortcut way to say what I'm trying to get at here. There's a lot of synchronicity. There's a Nine of Pentacles and a Nine of Wands, which is a wounded warrior. There's an Ace of Swords, which is clarity. You both see clearly that you would like to be together. This person is very worried, or you may be worried if you're either one of you is worried that you're not going to choose to be with them. Okay, but they want to marry you. And you both want that. That's what's coming through here. You both would like to be together. You both see this as becoming official or committed, but there's anxiety on both ends here. The strength for you, if you're this Nine of Pentacles energy here, is that you're seeing clearly. You see clearly about this relationship. The other person may not realize that, but this message is coming through as like a clarity. That's the strength of this message, is that to bring clarity to you as a couple, that you both would like to be together. There's no doubting that, okay? This is something that you both want. This person feels tired and weary from this whole process, and you may also feel that way. You may both feel like this because this is a very mirrored energy. King of Cups, Queen of Cups, Nine of Pentacles, Nine of Wands, the Lover's card, the Two of Pentacles, the Hierophant, the Lovers. It's all very synchronistic. It's marriage, it's clarity, it's love, it's abundance, and it's security. But it's right now there's some doubt and there's some worry, either on your end, like I said, or on this other person's end, that you're not going to be chosen, or that they, you know, they're worried you're not going to choose them, or you are worried that the person's going to opt to go their own way and not be with you. The reading is coming through to say that you both want the commitment. Okay, it's coming through very clearly with this Ace of Swords in the strength position, is that you're both seeing clearly about the other. You see that this person is your king and they see that you're their queen, or vice versa. And it doesn't have to be gendered. It can just be the regality of the relationship and the destined feeling or quality of the relationship. It's a relationship of the heart. It's a relationship you would both like to choose. It's a relationship where you both see that you could get married one another. It's a relationship where you both are tired. It's been a hard process to figure this all out. And there's been worry that you've moved on, or you're worried that the person you love has moved on. Like I said, I could very easily be speaking to either one of you here. And in fact, I may end up speaking to both of you. Okay, I'll just leave it there. What's another thing to know about this relationship? It's almost like there really doesn't need to be anything else here, because that's okay, I will say some more before I pull another card. The very heart of things is the King of Cups, which is a king that knows how they feel, but they're not necessarily expressing it. And that might be part of where the worry and fatigue is coming from, is that you are good, or this person is good on their own. And it's like, I'm not going to wait forever. If you're just going to secretly pine for me, I'm sorry, but I have a life to live, right? That's coming through. And so that might be part of the tension. But it's also important here that maybe this shouldn't be rushed, or I don't know. It's an important decision, but what keeps coming through is that you both want it. So I don't know what this king feels. It's the king that feels vulnerable. It's the king that's worried because it's the king that's not communicating. And that's at the center of the reading that's causing the distress a little bit. This king might be worried that you're going to reject them. This king feels like a wounded warrior. This king wants you. They're afraid that they've lost you. And again, flip it. It doesn't have to be gendered, right? It could be a same-sex couple, right? It's just a couple, the King and Queen of Cups. But what's important to know is that the king doesn't necessarily express themselves like a queen does. So this king is a little bit worried. He may not be in the energy right now of recognizing that he's a king. He may have felt like he's lost you. This reading is coming through, though, to say that you are very open to them. And maybe he needs to hear that. Maybe he's the one that's catching the reading. Or this is to help you be reassured that this person really feels this way about you, because you may have had your own doubts. Well, if he feels this way, why does he keep ghosting? Why is he silent? Why won't he show it? Why won't he take some steps? I'm not going to wait forever, right? Like, my life is passing and I'm not going to wait forever. You've been clear about that. You may even suspect that that's how he feels, but it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to hold your hand. You're a fucking king, so act like it, right? Like, that's kind of what's coming through, is that this Nine of Wands has been impacting both of you. But the worry is that on the king's side, that you're fine without them, that you've chosen to walk away from them, and that if they come forward, you're going to reject them. That's the fear. But it's an illusion, okay? This is an illusion because the clarity of this reading through this Ace of Swords is that you both feel the same way. You both see a future where the Hierophant is marrying the lovers, where you're building a Ten of Pentacles together. It's just right here. It can't be any clearer, okay? But the center of things is that this king is just in his feelings without doing anything about it, without saying anything. And that's where some of this distress is coming from. But I think what it's also saying is that deep down you both know it to be true. You both know that you feel this way, okay? You both want it to be official. You both want it to be made real, okay? With this Pentacles energy. You don't want it to just be a fantasy. You like it to be made real. What else is important to know about this relationship? What else is important to know here? What else is important for you to know? Since I can't really tell which one of you is catching the reading, and I think it very well could be that both of you are, okay? Card 21 in the reverse. Clean it up. Is it possible you may be focusing too much on other people right now, trying too hard to be helpful? Does taking on what belongs to others make you feel needed or desired? Okay, so that's you, Queen of Cups. If I'm speaking to both of you here, that's the vulnerability of the Queen of Cups, is that they can be too generous, too giving, and a little bit naive with their heart, where they're helping the wrong people, they're doing the wrong, feeling connected to someone codependent, where you may feel obligated to this codependent person. That's a very Queen of Cups way that a queen can show up, a Queen of Cups, right? Does taking on what belongs to others make you feel needed or desired? Perhaps you think it's your calling to relieve people of their burdens, but what is the cost to you and to them? Don't clean up someone else's side of the street. You're not helping by freeing him or her of responsibility. And that's where you can be in a sovereign Queen of Cups energy, which is like, you know what? I'm not going to keep rescuing the King of Cups from his anxieties or his fears about going out on a limb and being rejected. This king needs to rise to the occasion. It's not the queen that needs to keep reassuring the king. Okay, the king needs to rise to the occasion and have the courage to express what's happening in their heart if it's going to move forward. It's not for the queen to do all the work in this equation. You're also not doing yourself any favors by freeing the other person of responsibility, and you just might be adding an even greater strain. You are loved as you are. You don't need to be needed to be loved. Okay, so that's very important for the queen in the dynamic to hear. The other card is To the Sea, card 7 in the upright. Oops. Yeah, it's so interesting that a love reading came out, because I was thinking about doing a love reading, but it didn't really seem to have anything to do with this other material. There are points in a relationship when you have to decide to go with the flow rather than dictate the course you share with another. Can you let go of the need to have things your way and allow the relationship itself, your combined goals and desires, to steer the ship? Well, you clearly have the same goals here. Can you both transcend your personalities and allow the partnership to form its own identity, its own energy? Now is the time to relax and see where this mutual journey leads. Well, I'm not sure how that's going to happen with this King of Cups not doing anything, because he's at the center of the reading. So let me clarify that. Like, how can that happen if nobody's taking the steps towards one another, right? Because it came through really strongly that it's not for the queen to do. It's not for the queen to do all the work. And that's often a dynamic in the relationship, is that the feminine person, again, gender isn't necessarily in play, the feminine person takes the responsibility for all the emotional labor of the relationship, and that's an imbalance, right? I've been in that kind of marriage twice, where I'm the one doing all of the emotional work for both parties. I will never do that again, right? Never. It's out of balance. It's not fair to me, right? Like, I'm not the one that has to solve all of the emotional dilemmas. In fact, in my last relationship, as we decided to split up, the person never once, I knew they were brokenhearted. I knew that it's not necessarily what they wanted, but did they ever come to me and say, what can I do? Did they ever, and by then I was like, I can't keep this relationship alive with my own, where I'm doing all of the emotional work and suggesting we do this and suggesting we do that, right? Like, I'm not going to do it. And that person really didn't ever take any steps to try to see what they could do to mend things or bring the relationship back together. And that's okay. They don't have to, right? But I'm just saying, I made a choice as a Queen of Cups not to do all of the work anymore, even after we had separated. It's like, it's not my job to single-handedly save this marriage. What is the other person willing to do? Well, they didn't, it turns out they weren't really willing to take any steps to see what they could do to fix it. They said things like they missed me, but that's it. They didn't say, where might I have done something different? Or is there a way that we can fix this? What can I do to show you, right? Like, I did a lot of that. Like, I think we should do this. I think we should try this. Here's what I need. Here's what I'm hoping for. I did it over and over and over. And it just never, all I got was spinning my wheels, right? So that's not to throw the other person under the bus. It's just to illustrate how a Queen of Cups can feel and why this card came out. It's like, it's not your job, Queen of Cups, to do the entire emotional work of the relationship. So that's why I want to clarify this king, like, going with the flow, but what about the king's role here? I need clarity on that. Yeah, there needs to be communication This person needs to come out of their anxiety about being left behind and communicate. I don't know how that, so why go with the flow then? Maybe this is part of that, is trusting that, yes, you both feel the same way. You both know it deep down. You both feel the same way. Maybe this King of Cups just needs to hear that through this reading, or through trust their own intuition about it and go with the flow, because it's all flowing towards each other. This is all flowing towards each other and towards a commitment if this king would trust that. This king has a lot of anxiety about being left behind, because now here's these 2 5s, and it's directly connected to the fact that you're fairly independent on your own, Queen of Cups. And so they are anxious about it, that they're going to be rejected and they're going to be hurt. And it's natural to want to protect your heart, especially if you have a lot of loss in your past, right? 2 of Swords. They might be blocking this from happening because they're trying to protect their heart. Like I just said, they're blocking the communication because they're trying to protect their heart. They're afraid they're going to be left behind. They're afraid they're going to lay their heart out on the line and you're going to say, no, it's too late. I don't need you. This reading is coming through to say that's not the case. You both want to be together. The Queen is not going to do all the work. So maybe the King is in this collective and it's the King that's hearing this message. But communication needs to happen. What's some advice for the party that needs to... I mean, going with the flow is okay. If you need to kind of get secure in your intuition again, you don't want to come from a place of, you know, clinginess, but it's like, what's the advice for the king at the center of this? Because it's him that's at the very center of this whole thing, right? So what's some advice for him specifically in this equation? Tick-tock at the bottom of the deck, so timing is somewhat in play. Yang, take action. You can't make it up. This is the very first card in the deck. It's masculine energy, which is active. It's not receptive. It's not passive. This king may be used to having clingy chasers or codependent partners that chase after them so that they never have to make the moves themselves. Well, what's saying here when I ask specifically, what is this king? What's the advice for this King of Cups? It's to get in their fire element and take action. It means going out on a limb. It means taking a risk. But it can't all be the queen doing all of that work, right? It just can't be. That's an imbalance. It's not a balance. A healthy feminine is receptive. They're not trying to be in masculine and feminine. And many women get forced into that position in patriarchy because it's like, well, if I'm not doing it, nobody's doing it. So I'm going to have to do all of it. Go to work, manage the relationship, manage the kids, speak for both of us, push along the conversation. And it's like, well, at some point, no. Not if you want to be in healthy, receptive energy where you're not chasing anymore. And that's what I had to learn. I had to go through 2 relationships to learn that, right? 2 committed relationships where I had to learn, I don't chase my partner. I don't do the work for both of us. I need someone who is at my level, who's not afraid to talk about sex, who's not afraid to talk about challenging issues and say, what can I do? And humble themselves to me. It's hard for men in patriarchy to do. It just is. I don't sense that that's this king's issue. I sense more that this king's just afraid of being hurt here in the equation. But this is saying, if there was ever a green light, this is it, right? Like, this is like, you both want the same thing. So if this is reaching you, king, if this reading is for you, king, and you're the one catching this, you're the one that's going to need to take action. And you've got major green lights here. You both want the same things. You both want to build a life together. But this queen is not going to come rescue you from your insecurity. You're going to have to rise to the level of masculine yang energy, active, fiery energy, and take the leap, right? Take steps. What else? What else should you both know? And then you're both going to have to go with the flow, which might be challenging for both of you. If you're both trauma survivors, you're both going to have to, I think that's the advice for both of you, is to also just trust the natural flow of water, right? Go with the flow. It's interesting too because we're in Venus retrograde and we're in eclipse season. So keep that in mind while you take action, because eclipse is not the most stable time. But what else? Since I just highlighted that, what else should we know about that? Maybe that's what that timing card was at the bottom of the deck. Profound love and respect is the driving force here. You both love each other, okay? There's nothing to fear. You both want the same things. You both love each other. I can't say that enough. How does your inner warrior perceive surrender? This king is going to have to surrender his fears a little bit and go out on a limb and get into this yang energy, the active, fiery, masculine energy, the leader energy. Not all feminist-minded people are going to agree with this, but many feminists will understand what I'm saying, especially if they're straight, is a woman will surrender when she trusts the masculine leader, right? It's hard to find that. It just is. But sometimes a woman will let the man lead when she trusts the leader, right? When she trusts that the leader is guiding them both and not just looking out for number one. And I understand that that's controversial. I've had to be both masculine and feminine in my own life, my whole adult life. So I say that I believe that for myself, right? Like I will follow a leader if I trust the leader, but he's got to be an alpha leader. I can't have it, I need a leader, right? Your realness is rare. Sing to clear your throat chakra and lift your spirits. It's encouraging communication. It doesn't mean making promises right now. I think that's the timing issue and going with the flow. It means initiate communication. It means go forward, express what's on your heart, even if it's to say, I'm afraid to even commit because I've never been able to commit, or I'm afraid because, I don't know if my life can accommodate a relationship. It just means starting the ball rolling. It doesn't mean saying, let's get married tomorrow, right? It doesn't mean something like that. You don't have to make that kind of gesture, but you do need to do something, King, if you want to keep this relationship. Timing is in play. This queen is not going to do the work. You need to step forward and do the work, King. I'm just saying it straight up to whoever's catching the reading, and I'm pretty sure it's the king. The queen might also be, but the king needs to do this. This reading really resonates with me personally. I'm never going to do the work for both people again in a relationship. I know I won't. I will be alone. I'll be in my own Nine of Pentacles, sadly wishing for a relationship, but I'm not going to do all of the work. I'm not going back. That's going backwards for me, right? Yeah. You, Queen, if you're catching this, you need to guard your inner vein of gold and shield your energy. It's not for you to chase. It's not for you to do all of the work. It's for the masculine person in this dynamic. Again, we're speaking about energy poles. The masculine needs to step out of their anxiety and step into their courage and step into their fire element and do this work. Speak their truth. Whoops. Yeah, speak their truth, right? Sing, clear your throat chakra, speak the truth, clear the air, clear away the doubts that both of you have, because the queen's doubt is that this person's never going to do it. They're just going to quietly pine forever, and I can't live with that. I need to move on with my life, right? How does your inner warrior perceive surrender? That's that Nine of Wands energy. That's the warrior, the wounded warrior. This king is like a wounded warrior. He needs to surrender the fears and anxieties and go out on a limb and do it. And it's going to clear everything away. All of this doubt will be cleared away because profound love and respect is the driving force here. So, let's see. I think I'll pull one of these Hollywood cards again. I'm still learning this deck. Any kind of thing to lighten this up here at the end from this classic horror deck? Parting words for this couple here that both want to be together, but they just are at kind of a crossroads right now, at a choice point. The queen's choice is you don't have to do the work. You've done the work. It's the king's responsibility here to move forward, step into their masculine energy, step into their yang power, and take the lead. That's what's needed. It's just coming through crystal clear with that Ace of Swords. He needs to take the lead. At the split is Obsession in the reverse, and that is Phantom of the Opera, which is wild because Phantom of the Opera comes through a lot in my readings even before I bought this deck. So I'll take it and read the reversal. And then what's another one? Face. What does this say? Scars are earned. Don't hide them, wounded warrior. You don't have to hide your wounds. You can trust this love, okay? Profound love and respect is the driving force here on both sides. You both want this. You have mutual respect, okay? At what cost are we concerned with the judgment and attention of others? Are we saving face for ourselves or for those close to us? Mirrors can be blackened, reflections averted, but we are who we are, and only by seeing ourselves truly can we be set free. Scars are earned, don't hide them. It's okay to be vulnerable with this queen. She's a Queen of Cups. If anyone's going to get it, it's her. She understands, okay? This is a deeply respectful relationship. And then Obsession in the reverse. By the music of your design, this will be a triumph. Boom, King. That's all you have to know. You're not obsessed. You're not crazy. This is a mutual love here. By your own design and your own courage, you will triumph by opening up your throat and telling the truth. Trusting your heart with this person. Profound love and respect is the driving force here. So I'm going to leave it there. That's a beautiful way to end this reading. So thank you much, and I'll see you next time. Oh my God. I was going to read tiles, but I'm not going to now. That's plenty.